Warning, the following program has been rated T for truth.
You can't handle the truth!
Oh, we think you can. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report with your host, truth warrior and mythbuster Kathleen Wells. The place where we distinguish fact from fiction, where data is used to drive points home, and where Kathleen takes the position that Democrats and black politicians have destroyed black America. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. Now, your host, Kathleen Wells.
Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. It's me, Kathleen Wells, your host. I'm glad you joined me. And what am I going to talk about? There are two things. I think I'm going to focus on the fact, mostly during this show, that tomorrow we celebrate Martin Luther King Day. And then later I'll touch on the impeachment stuff. But mostly I want to focus on we celebrate Martin Luther King Day. Okay? There's a lot of, that's symbolic for Black Americans and for America. Martin Luther King represents what? He represents the main leader for Black Americans. He represents the most pivotal leader for Black Americans, I would say. Wouldn't you? He's the only one whose holiday we celebrate. Is that correct? The only Black American whose holiday we celebrate. Is that correct? That's probably correct. We don't celebrate Muhammad Ali Day or anything like that, right? We don't celebrate, let's see, who else? Sammy Davis Jr. Day or something. Martin Luther King is the only Black American who has a holiday. If I'm wrong, someone call in and tell me. Anyway, this is I don't want to get real excited about it. I want to present the information in a calm and relaxed manner because I just want to do it that way. So I'm titling this show, Where Did Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Folks Go Wrong? Where did they go wrong? They went the wrong way. How do we know they went the wrong way? Well, we know because Black America will be facing zero median wealth by 2053. How do we know they went wrong? Well, because right after slavery and up to the Depression, Black Americans owned, what was it? I think it was something like, 20 million acres of land. Yeah, right after slavery and up to the Depression, the end of the Depression, Black Americans own 20 million acres of land in America. What's another? These are new data points that I have. Another data point is that in terms of proportion, for every 100,000 Blacks, back then, during that time, right after slavery, during the Depression, and even during Jim Crow, Black Americans owned, what is the data point? I think it's 20 times more businesses. For every 100,000 Blacks, they own 20 times more businesses than they do today. Do you get that? Do you get that one? And then the one that Wilfred Riley, Professor Wilfred Riley, who was a guest last week, said on the show that, Black Americans in 1938 had 89% two-parent families. Today we have, subsequent to Martin Luther King, we have 25%. We own less businesses today than during the 20s, right after Reconstruction, during the 20s and the teens and stuff like that, and right after Reconstruction. We own less land today than we did right after Reconstruction. That time frame after Reconstruction and before the Depression. So Black Americans, despite the fact that they just got off the slave plantation and didn't formally or officially, they were deprived the ability to read and write, right? They had the presence of mind to buy land. They pooled their resources together and bought land. So and then during Jim Crow, in fact, I was just reading that during Jim Crow, did you know that Black Americans were, let's see, they owned industries such as, where did I write that? They owned broom factories and hair factories and a mattress factory, and they were starting a railroad in Little Rock, Arkansas. And they had owned a shipyard in Baltimore. Did you know that? Also, there was in every Black community, there was a Black-owned movie theater. In fact, across the United States, Lafayette theaters were Black-owned all across the United States. This was during Jim Crow, right? I guess we can say Tyler Perry owns a studio. That's a big deal. That's one person. And I told you the data is like for every 100, the proportionality for every 100,000 blacks back then during Jim Crow owned 20 times more businesses than they do today. So, I mean, we have a few Black billionaires, like you can name them on one hand, like they're all in the entertainment industry. I guess Michael Jordan isn't. Well, yeah, basketball. Well, he's a businessman. But Tyler Perry, P. Diddy, what is the guy married to Beyonce? What's his name? Yeah, I'm showing my age. I can't even remember his name. And Michael Jordan. They're probably, call in if you know some other billionaires or whatever. But you can name them maybe on two hands. And I forgot Oprah Winfrey, right? But the bulk of Black America is going to be facing zero. The majority of Black Americans are going to be facing zero median wealth by 2053. Yeah, the majority of Black Americans, despite all the pomp and circumstance we give to, all America gives to Martin Luther King, the majority of Black Americans this is a data point. 35% of Black kids are in poverty. Yeah, today. That's today. So this is why it's sort of like hollow. Is that the word I want to use? Or shallow? It's right after slavery, as I said, Black Americans were denied the ability to read and write, yet they had the presence of mind to buy land. So Martin Luther King focused on integration and social justice, right? And so integration and social justice got Black Americans where? Like think of Black America as a cup of coffee, black coffee, right? And when you add milk to the coffee, is it stronger or weaker? And I just saw on Twitter, that someone was they were talking about how tribalism or identity politics is a bad thing. Okay, I get that. I get what they're saying. But you see, the Black American experience in America is a 460-year experience. You have to look at the whole thing. It's a 460-year experience in America, right? Black Americans have been in America since her founding, the 1600s, not in large numbers. Yeah, but Black Americans were here in the 1600s. We weren't considered Americans until we weren't considered American. Well, we were brought here, and Black Americans were born on American soil. But the thing of it is, other groups didn't come to America until the 1970s in significant numbers, right? So therefore that makes the Black American experience unique unto itself. Because just given the length of time Black Americans have been in America. Other groups have just began to come in large numbers after the Immigration Act of 1965, which is just right the year after the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which Martin Luther King got enacted. So the issue with Martin Luther King, for me, is that he was a preacher. He was a preacher. He wasn't an economist. He was a preacher. He was charismatic. He delivered a good speech. And also, he was only 39 when he died. You know, I'm older than, aren't you guys? A lot of folks that listen to my show are older than 39, most. And you know, you learn a lot of stuff after 39, right? You get much wiser after 39. And also, we know that Malcolm X said, the liberals are the worst. I don't want to let the conservatives off the hook either, because it was like only 10 or 15 years right after Reconstructions when the Republican Party made an effort for only 10 or 15 years to work with Black America. The idea is this: if Black folks are just getting off the slave plantation, they have traits, they have skills. Most of them aren't able to read and write. They've been slaves, and you just set them free, you let them go, and that's it. You don't provide any kind of, they were supposed to get 40 acres and a mule, but you don't, and they didn't get it. But you don't, there's nothing provided for Black Americans after getting off of the slave plantation. And despite nothing being provided, up to the Depression, they were able to amass 20 million acres in land. Black Americans today, and I can include my grandfather in that. He was born in 1895, and he owned lots of land in Dallas, Texas. In fact, my cousins tell me that there's a street named after my grandfather, Wells, in Dallas. The main downtown area of Dallas has a street named after my grandfather. And then we also know about Biddy Mason, right? She was a slave. She couldn't read or write. And yet she amassed great real estate. In fact, I think she was the first woman real estate tycoon in Los Angeles, Biddy Mason. So what's the issue? The issue is that I think celebrating Martin Luther King when Black Americans, right after the Civil Rights Acts, we've been regressing. We haven't been progressing. And right after the Civil Rights Act, here comes the Immigration Act. And you have other Black Americans in Los Angeles and other urban cities don't even have communities anymore. They have neighborhoods because they have no businesses, as you can see in Los Angeles. And I've discussed this before, how Black Americans should have, after the Civil Rights Act, you would think that we would have 6 decades of businesses up and down Crenshaw Boulevard from like Pico or Olympic all the way down to Inglewood. I've discussed that before, and yet we don't. So what was going on? What has happened? Why do we keep celebrating Martin Luther King? Why? Because it's just symbolism. It's fluff. It's no substance there, because I don't see how Black Americans have benefited from the Civil Rights Act. Civil rights and integration, social justice is not something that Black Americans needed. They needed what? Economic justice. Economic justice. They don't need social integration and social justice and civil rights. They needed my group needed economic justice. And yeah, I'm a Black American. And that's another thing. I talk about Black America. It's only natural. Why? Because I'm a Black American. It's only natural that I would be invested in my group. That's human nature. It's human nature to have an interest in your group. That is not weird or bizarre. And so when you talk about things like tribalism or identity politics, I can see where other groups are, irrelevant. They just got here and they're doing better than Black Americans, relatively speaking. So I'm not concerned about other groups. I'm concerned about Black Americans. Why? Because it's natural. I'm a Black American, and my group has been here the longest, and they're relegated to a permanent underclass. We only have 25% two-parent families. Even Professor Wilfred Riley says in his book Taboo, and I want to recommend folks to go out. I read it. In fact, I wrote a blurb for that book. Go out and purchase it. You can pre-order on Amazon. But even in that book, he mentions that during slavery, 75% of the slave children had the same parents, okay? Now, one of the things that the liberals all say is that, well, the Black family has dissipated or disintegrated because of slavery. They always say that. Everything that comes out of liberals' mouth, everything that comes from the left is a lie. First of all, white families are even disintegrating under, all families are disintegrating with liberal ideology, what I call free sex feminism. Free sex feminism, have sex with whoever you want, whenever you want, take off your bra, you can have birth control if you want, or you can have an abortion. But you're free to have sex with whoever you want, whenever you want, all this, permissiveness in society is like cool and kosher. Well, all of this stuff was brought to us by what? Free sex feminism, the liberal ideology, which has permeated the culture for 6 decades at least. And it has disintegrated the American family for all groups. It's a bad thing for all groups. And what group has felt it most is my group. It has impacted my group most adversely. But all groups have suffered that. But it's natural, every group, it is human nature for people to care about their group that they're a part of. That's human nature, it's natural. And that's something that I think Democrats don't understand. They don't understand human nature. They keep thinking that, they keep trying to argue that human nature is something that it is not. Human nature is self-interested, and it has a penchant to go for their group first, to put their group first. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that is natural. It is the way it has been since time immemorial, right? You see in other countries, groups are divided along tribal lines and ethnic lines, right? So this is all groups, all over the world. Since man existed, everyone formed their group and stayed in their group and had issues with outsiders. This is how human nature operates, okay? So it's natural for me to be concerned with my group. Now, when the Democrats they want to screw everything up. They screw everything up with this identity politics, because now we're supposed to care about, it goes too far. Or they are how do I want to put it? They are like stretching it. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's white America and Black America have been in this country since its founding. 460 years, and America is about those two groups reconciling, coming to terms, coming to a understanding, getting it together and being cool. Now, all these other groups, I don't know, they just got here, okay? So I don't even know why they have any kind of really investment, so to speak. They don't have a 460-year investment, do they? This is just the facts, okay? But Black Americans and white Americans have a 460-year investment in America, okay? So that is, now what else did I want to mention? I mentioned the fact that the civil rights movement and MLK misled Black Americans. They went the wrong way. They focused on integration, civil rights, and social justice as opposed to economic justice. That's something that Thomas Sowell talks about. It is about economics. Because Black Americans have no power if they have, in fact, what is the data? It's something like since the 70s, we have 9,000 Black politicians, probably a little bit more now. 9,000 Black politicians since the 70s. And yet Black Americans are going backwards. So voting in Black politicians does not equate to Black Americans having power. What equates to power is economics, owning and controlling resources, having real wealth. Black American men have been in this country 460 years. Their legacy is in America. I don't know if that's the right term. Is in America. So you don't think Black men deserve real wealth? You don't think they deserve real wealth? You know, here in Los Angeles, we know because of all the illegal aliens, you can barely find Black men working in construction. I've had the building inspector on the show, and we know that 80 to 90% of the construction jobs are held by illegal aliens. You don't think that Black men should work construction jobs? You don't think that Black men who are the direct descendant of American slaves, therefore they have a history of 460 years in America, you don't think that they should earn real wealth? You don't think that they should work construction jobs? It's been an utter failure. The civil rights movement, when you look at the data, when you see where Black Americans are today, it's been an utter failure. So why do we continue? The question on the table is, and I'll put this question out there for my truth warriors and mythbusters to call in after the break and answer. Why do we continue to celebrate Martin Luther King? I want to know. And you can't rely on these Black politicians and academicians and talking heads to ever address these issues seriously. Black politicians aren't someone that, they're not serious. They're superficial. They're just fluff and symbolism, but nothing of substance. You know, I like meat on my bones. Anyway, we're going to take a break. And this song, Donny Hathaway, a song for you. This is a song for Black America, my group. I feel sorry for my group. Yes, because we're going backwards. I think it's a bad deal because I like to win. I like progress. This is Donny Hathaway. This is a song for Black America. I love you. Welcome back. This is the Naked Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells. And this song is for Black America. Yeah, I'm a Black American. Did you not know? So my love song to my group. Yeah, my love song to my group. Let's see. Black Americans made their strongest substantial economic progress during Jim Crow segregation. Between the end of slavery and up until after the Great Depressions, Black Americans owned over 20 million acres of land, including my grandfather, who was born in 1895. He was one of those landowners, a farm owner. So why do we continue to celebrate Martin Luther King? Because we don't own over 20 million acres of land today in 2020. So why do we continue to celebrate Martin Luther King? That's the question on the table. So let me just mention the fact briefly regarding the impeachment issue is that I heard Hakeem Jeffries, and this is what the Democrats are saying, that Trump taking the Ukraine call, or no, Trump precluding or withholding federal foreign aid to Ukraine was indicative of or exemplified the Ukraine call. Him taking that Ukraine call was him allowing foreign interference in the 2020 election. That's the way the Democrats shape that call with the Ukrainian Zelensky president. That was his effort. The fact that he was making foreign aid to Ukraine contingent upon Ukraine doing something beneficial, it was contingent upon President Zelensky of Ukraine investigating Hunter Biden. And in that way, Trump was involving foreign interference in the 2020 election. That's how Democrats have shaped the narrative. Okay? That's their way of seeing it. But that's not how Trump intended it. Trump intended it because of what was going on in the 2016 election. He wasn't looking proactive. So that's an interesting issue that's something that we need to be aware of. I'll put it that way. That's something we need to be aware of, that distinction between how the Democrats perceive the Ukrainian call, or how they've shaped that narrative, and how the GOP or Trump perceive that Ukrainian call. That's the distinction, and that's why there's a fight. Okay, why don't I take a call now from Brent in LA. Hi, Brent. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
Hello, Sister Kathleen.
Hi, Brent.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about Martin Luther King and Martin Luther King Day.
Uh-huh.
On one hand, I agree with you so much, but I think at this point, I really like Martin Luther King Day, and I think we need this particular symbol. And one day the holiday might be withdrawn, but I don't think it should be today. And
Why not? Why not?
Well, because I think, as I remember, having lived when Martin Luther King was alive and listening to him, he was a very hated figure by the left. And so he was hated by whites, and he was hated by blacks, and he accomplished a tremendous amount. He was an imperfect man, but he spoke perhaps more to white America than even to black America. And I think his ideas, they mesh up for me with Frederick Douglass, where as a minister, he was able to lovingly and respectfully shame white America, and it made, Americans and racists really give a second and third thought to what they were doing. And the idea of money, I think, which of course is important, but I think that money is just a symptom of when you're doing things right, it comes. And I think what blacks need is, as much as any human being, any American, is just freedom, liberty, values.
Well, no, you don't get free. You can't have freedom without money. Money is power. If you don't have money, you don't have the ability to act autonomously. If you don't own anything, if you don't control anything, you have no power to be autonomous. You're dependent.
Right. But that money and that power comes from knowledge, hard work, godliness, morals, ethics, and these things with them. You were talking about, why don't we have a Sammy Davis Jr. Day? And I'm thinking, wow, rather than having a Sammy Davis Jr. Day, I think we need to have a great Black American musician day when excellence was the given. I mean, I look at the Black music today, and I'm just ashamed.
Yeah, I think yeah. Well, you can tell my taste in music doesn't go towards rap. But the thing of it is, during segregation, Black Americans needed each other, okay? And and they relied on each other. So they had to open their own restaurants and stores and retail outlets and churches and funeral parlors and theaters. And you see, They needed each other. And that's why I'm saying with integration, you know, you have black coffee, and with integration, it's like pouring milk into black America. It doesn't make it stronger.
But it was a very sick integration. It isn't just integration of bodies, it's integration of values and beliefs that lift humanity. And I think that's, if anything, has been lost, because the black community used to be much more religious, much more family-oriented. And it's the leftists that have helped undermine this. And it was the left that really disliked Martin Luther King. And the idea that was...
the values got integrated, and in addition, the values are wrong, and it disintegrated the family. So it weakened black American. Integration, I think, because we integrated into liberal ideology. Yes. Also, but you know, I think black American, listen, other groups don't, you know, you have Koreatown, right? You have Chinatown. Every group is in their enclave. I mean, it's not like they're precluded from, you know, to go to Koreatown. You go to Koreatown. Koreatown is unique and distinct unto itself in Los Angeles. They're not precluded from going to other areas, but they have their neighborhood, their area. You see? And black Americans need their neighborhoods in their area, which they had during segregation. That's what I'm saying. We need our neighborhoods and our communities. That's it. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Brett. We're going to go to the next call. Hi, this is Pastor Green. Is that you?
Yes, this is he. How you doing, Kathleen Wells?
Hi, how are you? Thanks for calling the Naked
How
Truth
you doing,
Report.
my friend?
Yeah, I remember you. I know who you are.
That's right. Well, you know, but listen, I agree with you 90 to 95% of the time, and I noticed you had dropped a tidbit about Dr. King before, and I said it was kind of like on the not so positive side. I said, I wonder what it is she believes about Dr. King, but anyway, you know, Dr. King was born and raised for a particular time and season. God used him, just as he's using you today to speak the truth on the radio and broad, you know, the aircraft, the airways, and get it out. What's going on today with this immigration and everything? He's using you, you know. And I'm surprised that you're able to speak the truth like you do without anybody harassing you and killing you. That's because you were born for this time to speak out, and you're going to be protected until, you know, it's time for
someone to kill me.
Hey, I hope not, because we're praying for you. But you're born for this reason. You know what I'm saying? He's using you, and so God.
That's a beautiful thing.
We were like crawling, and we needed to get from one side to the other side, and God used that man to do that. Imperfect as he was, God used him to do that.
No, I don't think we were crawling.
I think so. That's good.
No, but we weren't crawling. That's what I'm saying. If you listen to the data that during segregation, black folks owned 20 million acres of land. We were during segregation. Right. We were the strongest and most substantial economically during Jim Crow segregation. We owned.
There you go.
We owned mills and let's see. I wrote it down. We owned
and I heard
theaters.
20 times
and we don't have that now. Yeah. It's only a handful of people that have things like that. Where did I write it? The things that we own.
But I heard all the statistics and I agree with them, and it was interesting to hear. But how is it that, you know, how the dots being connected that we can't celebrate what Dr. King did? I don't like it's his fault or something.
No, it's like why we? I don't under. It's like why are we? What are you celebrating exactly? Be specific about Martin Luther King.
Because he was a great man. He was a great man that took us from one level to the next through legislation. Because that was the only way. We weren't able to drink at the same fountains they had the same education.
I don't care. I don't need to drink at your fountain if I've got a broom factory and a mattress factory and a hair factory and a shipyard and a movie theater and a railroad. I don't need to drink at your water fountain. I got my own water fountain.
So you're saying that it was no need for him to come through at the time he came through and do what he did?
I want my own water fountain, okay? I don't want somebody else's.
Because, I mean, even after he did what he did, and I believe he was called to do what he did, then what about someone else taking us to the next level economically or philosophically?
But what have we have wasted 60? We have wasted 6 decades. We don't own stores up and down Crenshaw Boulevard.
That's not his fault, though, my dear. You know what I'm saying? That's not his fault.
It is his fault. It is his fault. It is his fault. He wasn't I blame him. Martin Luther King was not focused.
Only you speaking out right now.
Hey, let me tell you, the man was 10 years old. He could talk good, but that's not good enough. Okay, talking good is not good enough. You got to focus on the
You know
meat.
what, just like you're speaking out right now, I don't hear a lot of other blacks speaking out. I mean, it's like you're a voice in the wilderness. Where are the black cops speaking out? The other black leaders speaking out like you're speaking out. It's like so many people have sold out. He was telling it like it is at the time that he was,
Well, no, Malcolm X said he wasn't.
whatever.
Malcolm X said that he wasn't telling it like it is. In fact, Malcolm X said that the Democrats were worse than the conservatives. They're like wolves in sheep's clothing. And obviously so. That's true. Look where we are today, hanging out with these liberals.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Not me, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
Pastor Green, thank you for calling in.
Okay.
Okay, let's take Ida from Sylmar. Hi, Ida. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
Kathleen, oh my gosh, thank you so much for bringing up this topic. It needs to be said. My father's side of the family, I'm black. I'm originally from the East Coast. My father's side of the family is from Birmingham, Alabama. My grandfather always told us we are a Malcolm X family. We are not a Martin Luther King family. He didn't understand integration when he was there. He didn't understand why would he want to go to a white lunch counter where they would spit in his food and charge him more money for it. He didn't understand why all the black schools had to close down and put all those black teachers out of business for integration.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the PBS documentary about Ruby, remember Ruby in Louisiana?
Mm-hmm.
Her own parents said in that documentary that Ruby went to the best black school in the whole state, but they wanted her to go to a white school anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And this has to be said. And, you know, I feel like people don't realize, you're right about Malcolm X. Malcolm X, he must have had a crystal ball because he saw what would happen with integration. He was against it. He saw what would happen if we got into cahoots with the Democrats. And people don't know. That's why him and Martin fell out.
Mm-hmm.
Martin Luther King, towards the end of his life, did the burning house speech. Nobody talks about that.
Mm-hmm.
All they talk about is I have a dream. Nobody knows about the burning house speech where he realized he made a huge mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he regretted integration and the holiday, you know, most companies don't even observe it. It's sort of like a take a day off if you want to holiday. It's not even taken seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And I 100% agree with you. We got nothing economically out of it. It was just but it actually destroyed black businesses. We were forced to be entrepreneurs because of it, but it actually made us better and wealthier. My father's side of the family, they had all kinds of small businesses before integration. Mm-hmm. They owned a tailor shop and a bakery. They had a little farm. They made their own money. Mm-hmm. After that, it all went away.
Exactly.
And all the black teachers, there were so many black schools, you know, after the Civil War, my grandfather used to say there were so many schools in the South named Lincoln this and Lincoln Elementary that, and they all went away after that. Mm-hmm. All those black teachers lost their jobs. Mm-hmm. Nobody cares.
No one
cares. The grass is greener.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares. Mm-hmm. And for a water fountain, and what really happened is there are a lot of Southern blacks who did not get on the Martin Luther King bandwagon. The I Have a Dream speech, they were going to march there anyway without him. He made a deal with Kennedy. Kennedy called Martin Luther King for him to get there to calm things down and make that speech. There was thousands of people who were going to march there without him. People think that he organized that whole thing. He didn't. The Kennedys wanted him there. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you know, Kathleen, you ever heard of a YouTuber named David Carroll? He talks about this all the time. He talks about all the books written about Martin Luther King and he was in cahoots with the Democrats, with the Kennedys, and it blew up in his face. And Malcolm X, they wouldn't even speak to him ever again because he said, you know what this is going to do to our community. He knew it. He absolutely saw it. And everything Malcolm predicted came true. Mm-hmm. Everything Martin predicted did not come true. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad you're bringing this up because I feel like this holiday is just sort of like a smoke screen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a waste. It's fluff. There's no meat on that bone. Okay, it's just fluff. It's symbolism and nothing more. And, you know, we didn't need integration. We needed desegregation. Just like you have Koreatown, right. Koreans aren't precluded from going to other areas or shopping in other areas, but they have their neighborhood where they have their own things. Okay, we see that in
Exactly.
Los Angeles. Blacks do not
Exactly.
own any businesses, okay?
You
And
have you have Chinatown, Koreatown,
they even have
Armenian.
Armenian, they have little
Armenia,
Pakistan and all this stuff in Los Angeles.
Yes,
Ethiopia
the
village.
ones who segregate themselves are actually thriving within their own little segregation. You know what I mean? Because their money goes back to their own community. Our money does not stay in the Black community. It leaves.
We don't even have communities. We have neighborhoods. In fact, 98% of a dollar goes out of our neighborhoods. It doesn't flip.
Exactly.
It's about economics,
Exactly.
folks. It's not about social likes and dislikes. It's economics. Economics, money is power. And Black Americans have no power. And for being in this country 460 years, you don't think we should have some?
Exactly. Nothing to show for it. And we didn't get better after Martin Luther King. I hate to say it. Our community did not get better. The families didn't get stronger after him.
No, we've gotten worse.
So
That's the whole point I'm making. We don't even have families anymore. We don't even have families anymore. With the free sex femininity, it's like, go ahead.
Right. No, I was going to say the statue, they didn't even petition a Black person to build the statue.
Oh,
they went all the way to an Asian country or something and got someone to do it.
Well, you know who did that?
Black artist.
But you know who did that? It was those Black, because I interviewed the sculptor on my other show, the Kathleen Wells. Ed Dwight, a Black man, was supposed to sculpt that Martin Luther King statue in the mall. But the Black fraternity, okay, those Black guys, listen to me, those in that fraternity, I think it was Phi Beta, I don't know which one of those Black fraternities, they went and got an Asian guy to sculpt the Martin Luther King sculpture. I think it was Chinese, in the mall. And so, yeah, Martin Luther King looks like Mao Zedong in the mall. Have you seen the statue, folks? Oh, it's just, we have become a joke, okay? It's unbelievable. Thank you, Ida. This is the first time calling in. Call in again. There's my music. This is the Naked Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells. Don't forget to go to my YouTube channel and subscribe. Don't forget to go to my website and buy some of my t-shirts, support the show. And don't forget to buy Dr. Claude Anderson's Black History Reader. He has all these details that I'm talking about in his book, so you know what you're talking about. I'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.